Hello, I'm Terry David Mulligan, and this is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. We've done some, approaching 250 podcasts, and lots of fun, some disagreements along the way. But this podcast, this interview, this subject is the hardest thing I've had to do in quite some time, if ever, because there's a friendship involved. Tara McGuire and I did radio together on a number of occasions. And I knew of her son Holden because she talked of him a lot. Holden was 21 years of age, a graffiti artist, a worker bee, had jobs, when he died of an accidental opioid overdose at the age of 21. 21. And Tara, after she picked herself up, which took a long time, started to think like the writer that she had been trained to be. And she went looking for facts, investigation, she went looking for memory and fantasy, and even, actually, as they say, fabrication, in search of understanding not only her son's tragic death, but also his beautiful life. As I admit to Tara during the course of this interview, it took me an entire summer to read this book. I made myself read this book. It was so heavy on my heart as a father. As I say in the interview, I don't want to scare you away. It's just how I reacted to it. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable book. And how brave she was to go and find the people who knew her son and get answers to the questions that were just dragging her down. There's such honesty in this book. The book is called Holden After and Before, Love Letter for a Son Lost to Overdose. My friend Tara McGuire has lost her son, but she has found her voice. And if she continues to write at this level, going forward, she will become a fantastic writer. Here's a quote from Alex Olin, author of We Want What We Want. In this unforgettable book, Tara McGuire weaves together two strands: her own story of mourning the death of her son Holden, a talented graffiti artist, and the imagined story of Holden's life. It is deeply moving, and it feels true, not in the sense of being a documentary, but in the sense that art strives to share truth about the world and our time in it. At the end of the book, Holden's friends paint a mural portrait of him and add his name on the wall. In this remarkable testament, Tara has found her own signature as an artist, etched from love. Alex Olin, the author of We Want What We Want. I urge you to take time to listen to Tara McGuire, and then go and read this book, Holden After and Before, Love Letter for a Son Lost to Overdose. On the morning that her book is released, here's a conversation with Tara McGuire. I'm Terry David Mulligan. This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. This is my home studio. Tara McGuire's on camera left, in her home studio. We've been talking about this day for quite a while, Tara.
Yes, we have.
The book, as I've told you at the beginning, is called Holden After and Before. How did you feel when you actually held this book?
Oh, that was a big day. That was a cry day for sure. It's heavy. I didn't think it would be so heavy. And I love the color. I love the paper. I love books. So I think this is a nice book. Like, aside from the fact that it's mine, I love these are called French flaps.
Yes.
I'm happy about the French flaps. I like it. It's a nice book.
I'm using the French flap to hold on to a page that I want to go to at the end of this. I had to, as I told you, I had to prep myself for this interview. This was not a normal interview for me by any stretch of the imagination, and I've done thousands of them. This is really personal. You and I know each other. We worked in the same station from time to time. You in mornings, and I just happened chance walking through, and we would wave to each other. Part of me was really, 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 really bothered that I didn't know about what you were going through. And because I always felt that we were friends and I wanted to support you. This is one way of taking a step forward to that support.
You don't have to worry about that, Terry. You know, like people's lives they swerve around all over the place, and we weren't in touch during that time. So it's cool. We're in touch now, and I feel like you support me, and I don't know what's been going on with you either. I'm sure there's been some shit in your life that I haven't helped you with, so we're good.
You lost Holden, your son. He was 21?
Yeah.
You did a remarkable piece in the Globe and Mail the other day,
Thank you.
and it was another overview, and you said, I wanted to be able to say 7 years after Holden's death that I had finally realized that everything happens for a reason, but that would be a lie. Sometimes there's no reason for what happens. Sometimes life is just stupid and terrible, and there's no making it right. And you're talking about time the healer, and time quiet quit on you. How much healing has gone on just in writing the book, in researching it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can cope with life now. Like I probably spent, I don't know, like 6 months in my bed. So that, I'm not there. Um, but I think that I still have days, and I wrote about it in that Globe and Mail piece, where I'm just not able to function. And that's what we don't see, this invisible toll on people. Maybe you have days like that too, where it just all comes back and you just can't deal. So writing the book is a form of catharsis for sure, but it was also really hard to do because I had to spend so much time in those scenes with Holden and feel his pain again in order to try and articulate it. So things are better, but it's not over.
You wanted answers. You wanted answers from Holden's friends, from the doctors, from the addiction and mental health people, from yourself. Did you get all the answers or enough?
Oh, no. No, I don't think you can ever know what's going on in people's lives and in their inner worlds, even if you know them, even if you're in the same car with them, you don't know what's going on in a person. And so I didn't get enough answers. I got some answers. I still don't know why it happened. And I think what bugs me the most is, and you've read the book, so there are so many intersections in a person's life where if they had just gone one way instead of the other, things may have been different.
But that could drive you crazy.
Oh, I'm crazy. I'm crazy with this, obviously. Yeah, it's hard to put it down. It's hard to think. And then it's also kind of narcissistic to think, oh, if I'd been there, I could have saved him. Like things would have been so much different. I don't know that. Maybe his life would have been worse if he hadn't died. We don't consider that. Like maybe he wouldn't have been married with 2 kids and had a nice job. Maybe he would have been really suffering. And we don't get to know that.
You gave voice to yourself, of course, but you gave voice to Holden as well. That caught me by surprise, that you started to live the life that he had based on texts on his phones, messages, what his friends told you. You had to pull some of that information from those friends they didn't quite trust.
Yeah, some of them weren't forthcoming, let's say that. And of course, they're worried about themselves. And most people only think about themselves, especially when you're young. So I tried to use Holden's own words from his text messages and that kind of thing. I hope I was successful with the dialogue scenes. Those were the most fun for me to write because in some ways it kept Holden alive, and like walking around and doing his wacky stuff in the city with his friends. And so I appreciated that. And I think it's almost like a different language, like it's learning how people talk now and how they communicate. Yes. It's kind of fun.
Holden, you described him as funny and clever. He was an artist. He was a graffiti artist. He had friends who spoke so well of him, the kind of person that he was away from you, right? Which probably informed this book. So it begs the question, when did you realize, as you searched for these answers, that this was a book that had to be written by you?
It took a long time because I didn't feel I had the permission to write Holden's story, especially in his voice and from his point of view. like 5 years ago when I started writing, and more so now, there's a lot of talk about appropriation and whose story belongs to who and that kind of thing. And I wrestled with it for a long time about how to write, especially inhabiting Holden's voice. But here's a weird thing, Terry, like sometimes I would come back to drafts that I'd written and I'd be like, oh, I don't remember writing that. Like, who wrote that? So I would say to Holden, like, what do you want, and what do you want me to know? Like, what do you want people to know? Like, what concepts and ideas do you want to talk about here? How are you feeling? And I would kind of enter into a scene, and then, sometimes when you get into the flow with doing something and time just goes by.
Yeah.
And so that would happen. And then I would go back to the writing. I'd be like, oh, damn, I don't know who wrote that actually. So that may sound too woo-woo for you, but I'm going to say that Holden helped me write this book.
By the way, just as an aside,
Yeah.
you have no idea how this book is going to change your life.
Really?
This is a great book.
Oh, thanks, Terry.
And I tried to tell you when I first opened it that I was unprepared for the feelings coming over me. Like, I realized this was going to be my whole summer, a chapter at a time, until I got to the end. And it still affects me now. So the answers that you got, did they help, or did they heal, or did they hurt, or did they hurt, or all?
Yeah, all of that. But I don't know. Like, I think sorry, that's my dog, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
For me, in times of sadness and trouble, I write, or I make things. I make things for other people. I make food or whatever. And so for me, the creative process was really important, just to be able to exist, like just to be able to process. And so answers, no, like I still don't know what happened. Maybe someday somebody will come to me and tell me what they know about that last day, those hours that I don't know what happened, that I had to like fictionalize these scenes. I don't know what happened. I think it was a dumb mistake, honestly. I think it was a bizarre sequence of events. And then it made me think, like, how many other people die because of stupid, crimes of misadventure? And so I can't explain it. No, I don't have the answers.
Do we now know how many people have died, even roughly, from the opioid crisis?
In Canada, 30,000, at least 30,000.
At least.
That are documented, and another 1,200 so far in the first half of this year. So call it 32,000 at least. Like way more than COVID, way more. And think of the money that's spent on COVID.
I made a note here. You were writing from Holden's voice, Holden's view. How long did it take you to find your voice here?
Oh, a long time. I started writing initially in Holden's voice because I don't know why I did, but I wanted to tell his story, and I didn't think I could tell it from my voice because I didn't have one. But I think my own voice has been getting stronger lately, and I feel more confident in my writing lately because I've been fortunate to have very generous people show me some craft at both SFU and UBC, and I feel like I'm getting better at it.
But you're a sponge. You just soaked it up.
Oh God, I loved it. I went to university at 54 years old. I was older than the profs.
Welcome to your new life.
But I'm so glad that I went at that age, because like all of the students were the same age as Holden. So I got to hang out with them and kind of see their aesthetic. And by the way, nobody gave a shit about how old I was except me. Like not once did anyone ever exclude me or treat me differently. It was just fantastic. I loved it. You're right. I was a sponge.
What did you learn about the son that you thought you knew?
Well, I had his phone. So I had his private messages, which, as we know from social media, there's the public persona and then there's the back channel messaging. Yeah. And from that, what I learned is he was extremely kind. He cared a lot about people. He was present. he was also very much a dick at times, which, we can all
He's
be.
21. He's
Yeah,
20, yeah.
exactly. 21, right? But what I learned is that he was there for people. He was extremely loyal and he was so funny. Oh my God. And he loved music. I hope you picked up a lot of the music in the
Yeah.
book. It's not a quiet book. And he'd always have music playing. He'd always send like YouTube videos of songs to people. He'd always leave a song playing when he left the room. He, like music was, he'd come into the house and the first thing he would do is turn on music. And that's one of the things that I cherish.
I now remember that you asked me about a Neil Young lyric.
I paid Neil some money to keep it in the book. Well, Neil doesn't own his catalog anymore, I don't think. But I spent my whole book advance on royalties. Like artists have to make their money. So yeah, there's Neil Young lyric in there that was really important to me. Harvest Moon, which, is a song from 93, which I rocked Holden to and has become a pivotal song for me. We went to New York. We went to see the Dakota and John Lennon. I sang Jealous Guy into his ear. I wanted to have a Mariah Carey. He used to sing Mariah Carey, which is hilarious, but, A Tribe Called Quest is in there. He had a scenario for his ringtone on his phone. And Peaches and Herb, like he sang Reunited to me when we got back from our trip in the kitchen. I'll never forget that. So I wanted those lyrics to be in the book too.
I'm often asked to just, or my mind asks me to see if music can heal. In the right place at the right time, in the right moment, in the right room, it can. But sometimes it's happen chance, sometimes it's pre-planned. I was just thinking about that.
Oh my God, I've been listening to Brandi Carlile, like deep dive lately. Her song, The Joke makes me cry every time. But there's another one, I forget what it's called, The Story, maybe. And there's a line about a woman who carried her baby across the desert. And it says, I can see that you look tired, but you don't look scared. And every freaking time I hear that song, I just bawl. There's something about that. You're looking tired, but you don't look scared. And I'm like, all right, we're all tired, but we have to just keep going.
Tara McGuire is with me. The book is called Holden After and Before, a love letter for a son lost to overdose. Tara McGuire. And it's out, when is it? Hold on a second. We're talking on what day?
It's today, Tuesday the 27th.
Today.
Yeah. It's Book Baby Day.
Oh my God.
It's publication day.
Why are you talking to me? You got to get out there. There's a parade somewhere.
Yeah. I have a few more I've done one already. I'm doing another one later.
How much?
But you're the most important. Remember when we used to work together and you had a cappuccino maker in your VW van?
Yes.
And you'd run out of the studio and make coffee, and I'd be like playing the records. Oh my God, that was
it was
so
because
fun.
I had a 35-minute drive to the station. I thought, what can I do with these 35 minutes? I can make cappuccinos in my Volkswagen van.
Oh my God.
Oh man, yeah. 7 years. It's been 7 years.
Yeah.
How much has it changed you, in how many ways?
Oh my God, I've learned so much. I thought I used to know so much. Now I realize I don't really know anything. I've hopefully become a more patient person, more empathetic person. I hope. I really appreciate my friends. I really appreciate the people who are gentle, that kind of thing. I don't really go in for the flashy stuff anymore. I heard a good expression the other day. It's JOMO, the joy of missing out. I'm like, you guys go have fun if whatever you're doing. I'm going to stay here at home. I'm going to stay here at home and stare at my garden.
Joy of missing out. I love that.
JOMO. Yeah.
I got hung up on chapter 22 and I can't tell you why. I put the book down and it took me a while to get back to it. Anyway, I do like this last line, that the opioid crisis is an epidemic of despair.
Sure it is.
Still.
Like people don't take drugs in the hopes that they will become a person in the throes of substance use disorder.
Yeah.
People take drugs to feel better. And that's what's not being paid attention to. People are in a lot of pain. And I think if we can find a way to meet people's pain and help them with their suffering, then the drugs become kind of irrelevant. I mean, like you and I took, I don't know if you did, but I took drugs because they were fun. And then it becomes, for some people, a way to erase the trouble of the world. Like we do that with Netflix, we do that with wine on Friday night, whatever. Like people, the world sucks right now in some cases. It's also joyful in some cases, but we all try and make our problems disappear for a while. And some of us are just more likely to become addicted to those substances.
I know you wrote this for yourself, but you also wrote it for Holden,
Yeah.
which would have driven you forward. But at some point, did you realize that you were also writing for other mothers, other parents, other brothers and sisters, other families of people that were going to be lost or were lost?
I don't know. I know that for a long time I felt very alone. I felt that it was just so painful, and to think, how did my kid end up there? And then I realized, oh, everyone who's died this way has parents who probably feel the same way. Like, how did my kid end up there? So I guess in some cases, in some way, maybe, yeah, I would never try and take on someone else's grief or their beliefs, but hopefully they feel less alone.
You literally, you have bared your soul in this book and made it readable, took us forward to the next page. You didn't scare us away. Tell me about the dialogue that you had with yourself about, yes, I can't do it. No, I can't do that. Did you finally settle on what you could do?
Well, anybody who's tried to write anything knows that the first draft is just a hellhole. And so I just decided, I think it was Annie Dillard who said, just put everything you've got into that first draft, like just everything. You can always take it out, So I just put everything that I felt and thought and considered into that draft. And then I guess I became a little less sensitive to it because I'd been with that content so much. It's not funny, but my husband can't read it. He hasn't read it, can't read it. He tried to read like a couple essays here and there, and he just can't. It's too painful. But I've like desensitized myself, I guess, to the content. So then I could decide from a craft perspective how I wanted to structure it. And now when many people have said, I'm too scared to read it. Like I'm scared it's going to hurt too much to read it. And like you said at the beginning of this conversation, I don't know why I wasn't there to help you. And that's kind of a response that people have, is like, I didn't realize how much you were suffering. And I'm like, how could you have known? I wouldn't let anybody in the house.
Yeah.
I sat here with my laptop and I just so I think that, I did take out a lot of the super raw and vulnerable stuff. I kept a lot for myself with my relationship with Holden, but I kept everything in the book that I thought might be kind of universal to others who are experiencing their own grief in their own way. And by the way, grief isn't about people who've already died.
Yeah.
Grief is about fear that people might be struggling or might be in pain too. So
you describe yourself as two people. I'm just remembering some of the things now. I'm not going to even look at my quotes anymore. I've written myself into a hole. You describe yourself as two people. Who are your two people? You.
Yeah. Well, there's the person who is capable and able to function and able to conceptualize, I guess, and package this experience so that it exists in a form where other people can share it. And then there's the person who is just like completely dysfunctional and lies in bed a great deal of the time, not doing anything.
Were you worried about yourself?
Did you? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was worried about myself. My husband was worried about me. My daughter was worried. A lot of friends were worried about me. I found out just recently that they would have like these secret meetings, like, what's going on with Tara? What can we do? Like, have you seen her? Do you know what's going on? And people were really concerned, but it's so hard to know in grief what to do for others. Like, you just don't want to say anything stupid, which I always end up saying something stupid.
I think we have a shared experience here about the East End, but there's nothing there that I hadn't seen before, especially from my Mountie days. I think it was Kate's birthday, and I'm trying to shoot a television interview about addiction in Vancouver for Much Music. And I'm interviewing a guy who's on his last legs. And I said, what would you do if your children ended up here? He said, I'd kill them because they're going to die anyway. I really would. They can't come here. They just can't. And my phone rings, and it's Kate saying, all right, the birthday party is starting in an hour. You have to get home. So as I'm driving, I'm thinking this juxtaposition between this raw living and my daughter's 5th birthday. I'm trapped in it. So you do the same thing in this article that you wrote for the Globe and Mail. You tried to take Holden through that same district. You showed it to him. What was his reaction?
Oh, he was like, Mom, thanks, but I'm good. Like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. Like, and honestly, I think he was fine. Like, I don't know the depths of Holden's drug use. He was not homeless. He was healthy. He was employed, and he was a drug user. And that is a situation that is very, very common. Would he have ended up there? Maybe. I don't know. But there are a lot of functional substance users.
Yeah.
Your stockbroker, your doctor, the person at the restaurant, like drug users are all over. And one of the things that bugs the shit out of me is that whenever people talk about the opioid crisis, they show pictures of some guy in an alley in the downtown east side. Yeah. And that is perpetuating the stigma. It's not true. Yes, that exists. Yes, that is horrible. Yes, that is a complex situation that I don't know what the solution is, but that is not the whole picture.
Yes, there's that too, isn't there? I think about all of the people who are going to pick up this book, not knowing. They won't know. They won't know how it's going to wash over them. I don't want to scare you away, book reader. It's
not scary. Do you find it scary?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually worried about you more than anything, but it is in that it's so open, it's so raw, it's so honest. You can tell that it touched me. It really did. And we've got kids and grandkids, and I count my blessings.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me. And I think the best thing that we can do for our kids and our grandkids is to make sure that they know how much we love them, and that whatever is going on with them, we love them, and they can come and talk to us, and they can come and ask for help. And that was the point of my essay in the Globe on the weekend, is that we don't know what we're saying or what we're doing with our actions, and in terms of affecting people's behavior and their ability to come for help. I think Holden was almost ready to come and ask for help. Mm-hmm. And it just was a bad situation. But as long as there's that shame and that stigma associated with substance use disorder, people are unlikely to come forward and ask for help. Most substance users who die of overdose die alone. Nobody's there.
Yeah.
That's
the sadness.
So sad. So sad.
Well, you've written this book. You've set it up. Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Where can we find the Courage Memorial so that people can go?
Oh, the graffiti wall?
Yeah.
It's at Main and East 5th in Vancouver. It's actually a retaining wall that holds up the parking lot of WeWork. However, it's a West Bank property, and they just got their development permit. So that might be the last year that it's there. I'm having a friend take photographs of it so that I can have a picture on my wall, but it's probably going to get torn down soon. So Main and East 5th on the northwest corner.
Okay. And his work is still out there as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. There's quite a bit of his graffiti work. Can you see this? Wait.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. He did that piece in Hawaii the year before, the Christmas before he passed. And a friend made a painting for me. Isn't that cool?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that you're going to be asked to read quotes or read pages or paragraphs from the book. I do like the afterword. Can I ask you to read something just so we can get a sense of the weight of the words?
I'll read the beginning. I guess, because that's where we are, day
Okay.
one.
Thank you.
I'll just read a couple paragraphs. They told me his body lay on a mattress in a room with a window and a brick wall. They told me he was covered and peaceful. They told me he spoke of love that night, that he laughed. They told me he made plans for tomorrow before he closed his eyes. The next morning, in the warm heart of summer, my son's body lay cool and slack. The scaffolding that had held up his being for 21 years, now absent. When his soul flew, the tent poles collapsed. Only a quiet skin inscribed with language remained, and questions. Since then, I have learned that dead children are not bound by earthly constraints. The stubborn ones disregard the limitations of oxygen and blood. I hold my son now, as I did for his breathing years, and ask him how such a beautiful choir could be so abruptly halted, from raucous, full-throated chorus to echoes.
Thank you. I have two quick questions. One is, has anybody approached you about film rights?
Oh, no. No.
Are you ready
It's day
for
one,
that?
Terry. It's day one.
Listen, I'm just
Do you
saying.
think it would make an okay movie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
I
But
did have a guy connect with my agent about if there was a stage play rights.
same thing. Same thing.
We'll see.
And now comes the biggest question, and that is, besides Holden, what now for you? I realize that this is literally the curtains have just risen on this book. And here's me asking, what now? Now that you've established yourself, you've made your mark, people are paying attention, what other story do you want to tell? What kind of thing can you see yourself going down the road?
I always wanted to be a writer. You know, so much of radio is writing. You have to be prepared and write what you want to say. And so I always wanted to be a writer. I thought I would be a fiction novelist. And every time I try and write fiction, I always end up writing personal essays. But I would like to write fiction. I would like to write. So I wanted to be a writer, and this is the content that presented itself. So it's almost like, here's this big thing that I can't really see what's next until this is kind of executed. I would like to write a fiction book that's funny.
Because you are funny. I know you to be funny.
Well, I hope so. I think that's hard to do, but I'll try.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You will hear about this. You will see it. There'll be much talk about this. Holden After and Before. Love letter for a lost son to overdose. Tara McGuire. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much for doing this. Thanks for your thoughtful questions.
And welcome back to radio.
You can have it.
Podcasting. Yeah. You can do it from home.
Yeah, I could. Not going to. FOMO. No, JOMO.
Congratulations. Love you.
All right. See you soon. Love you too.
Bye. Tara McGuire. The book is Holden After and Before. Love letter for a son lost to overdose. It's a dark beauty. Please go find it. Or maybe it'll find you. Or just know that it's there when you want to find it. Especially if you're a mother or a father or a daughter or a son or a grandchild. We're all part of this story. Thank you for listening. This has been the Mulligan Stew Podcast.